Deep Threat Sports Network fans, welcome back. Tonight, we have Big Ten win totals part two. Looking to really wrap this Big Ten up. This is exciting stuff. Love doing these episodes. These are some of my favorites that we do all year long. Tonight, you have Nolan, Bryant, and myself. And then let's not forget, next week, we're going to begin the SEC win totals, wrap them up, move on to group of five conversations, sprinkle in that new look Pac 12, some of those teams a little bit, talk about those win totals and we have some exciting stuff moving on from there for you guys. Fellas, I hope you guys have a great, safe holiday too. It's 4th of July weekend. Hope you guys have a great time. One thing I love about 4th of July too is that just means we are 1 month closer to college football. We are 1 month away from college football month. Fellas, I'm super excited. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Doing good. Getting ready to go on a boys trip to Chicago, watch the Cardinals and Cubs. Cardinals are hot right now. They just got swept by the
Just got
Pirates and
swept
did
by
not
the.
score
Don't
a
they
run.
scored a run, Brian?
Didn't score a run. So excited for that. It's going to be a good holiday weekend.
Offense is hot. No one, you got any big plans?
Same thing. I'm up in Chicago with Bryant this weekend.
Oh, nice, gentlemen. Nice.
Yep.
That's exciting stuff. Hope you guys can bring some better luck for the Cardinals, or you guys may just have some good stories and a sunburn when you guys come back. Other than that, may not see a whole lot of winning baseball. But yeah, man, that's awesome stuff. Me and the fam aren't doing too much. Two young kids makes it a little difficult. So gonna probably take it pretty easy for the 4th of July holidays. But tonight, let's go ahead and move on to this thing. Nolan, I think you got a question for us. Also, real quick reminder before we go, all these odds come from DraftKings. That's where we grab them from. That's where you guys can go see these odds if you want to follow along with us. Nolan, what do you have for us tonight?
So my question for you guys, there's a couple caveats to this. Now I'm saying you finished last year as a 6-6 team, just dead middle of the road. What position would you pay for? Just the one position that you want on your team, you can secure, let's say a top 10 player in the nation. You can have a top 10 quarterback, running back, receiver, any one of those three. I'll give you the entire offensive line. You can have a top 10 unit. And then I'm going to put the front seven together. So we're classifying like run defense. You have a top 10 run defense. And then we'll put the back seven. So kind of converse of that. So the back seven would be linebackers, safety, corners. You can have a top 10 pass defense. And we're going to say we're playing in the SEC. What position are you paying up for to get that top 10 player?
Brian, you want me to go? I think Brian might be frozen. I'll go on this. This is an awesome question. I obviously the easy cop out is quarterback, right? But I don't think that's the direction I would go. For me, if I'm in the SEC, I'm going a top 10 offensive line, or I'm going a top 10 front seven defensively on the run, like on the run side of things, your D line and your linebackers. I think, and those are my two interests. I'm going to give a kind of a reason for both. The front seven on the defensive side of the ball, I'm picking them because if I can get home to the quarterback and generate pressure, nothing against the back half of my defense, but I can allow them to run a lot more free, maybe make a few more mistakes, especially off the ball, if I can get home with pass rushers. So I think that is very, very important in the SEC. On the flip side of this, the unit that they'd be going up against, this would probably be my number one answer in a top 10 offensive line. That allows my running game to become more efficient. That allows the play action to become involved. That allows my quarterback, who maybe I don't have that top 10 quarterback that you're referring to because I was a 6-6 football team, but I can allow an average quarterback to go make some plays, have some time in the pocket, not have everything feel so fast, and allow my quarterback to kind of slow it down a little bit. And that would allow the quarterback as well to grow as the season went on. Hey, let the plays develop, evaluate the defense, see the coverages, take what the defense gives you. We're giving you, 4 seconds of time, 3-4 seconds of time to stay up on your feet. Take what the defense gives you, get 5 yards on first down, run it here. We'll gain 3, make it third and short. I think a good top 10 offensive line really allows you to have third and short and really convert on short third downs. So my number one answer is a top 10 offensive line.
Hey, gonna be honest, boys. Wi-Fi is a little shaky here. Nolan, can you run that question just by me again? I missed half of it.
Yeah. Did you miss first or second half of it, or you want the whole
Go,
question all over again?
go ahead and shoot me again if you don't mind.
Yeah. So you're a 6-6 team last year. You're dead middle, and you play in the SEC. What position would you pay up for that you could guarantee yourself a top 10? Quarterback, running back, receiver. It's all individual there. Offensive line, you get a top 10 unit. The front seven on defense would be a top 10 run defense. And then the back seven, we're just doing linebackers, safeties, corners, would be a top 10 pass defense. What would you pay up for if you knew you could get top 10 at the end of the year?
Honestly, I think if you look at Missouri in 2023, we saw a perfect example of this. I'm going a top 10 back half of my defense. Because you're not going to have, and if you're a 6-6 team, you're not going to pull great playmakers into other positions, in my opinion. So we saw with that team, we had Chris Abrams, Drain, and Ennis Rakestraw actually absolutely lock down the outsides, and that helps the not the overly elite players in the middle lock in and be a great defense and help us win football games. Yeah, we had an all SEC running back on the other side, but I think that helps take pressure off of your DNs to get sacks. They don't have to rush purely; they can get coverage sacks. I think it helps your defensive line kind of key in on the run more than worrying about getting the pass rush themselves as well. So I think that's what I would pick, just because you want to be as solid as you can be on defense, especially in the SEC. And that locking down that back half would definitely help that. I feel like because if you're a 6-6 team, you're going to need a solid back half of your defense to even make a run at a better record.
Would agree. I think I'm going with Collins' number two option there. I want the front seven. I want my run defense to be top 10 at the end of the year if I'm going to play in the SEC. Because along with your front seven, I guess I should have said your pass rush then too. You got those big edge players. You got the run stuffers in the middle. You got the linebackers eating up 90% of your tackles, hopefully. If I can get that and for sure pay for that, that's easily my number one. I can figure out a way to score, 20 points in an SEC game, running back, receiver, whatever it might be. Let's game up some scheme. Let's get Lane Kiffin as our OC, something where we can score 20 points and just, if I can keep you out of the pocket, if I can keep you guessing at all times, I think that's your way to win.
Nolan, it almost sounds like you're going to run like a Kirk Ferentz Iowa Hawkeyes football team.
Yes, sir.
You get the
I,
defense hot, you score 20 points, you may still win 7, 8
Yep.
games.
You see what they've been doing the last however many
Hey,
years? They're
I was
good
going to say
every
this.
year, man.
This is a perfect segue.
Yep.
That wasn't even on purpose. I mean, that just happened to fall right in the lap because with that question, we are transferring over now to our win totals part two for the Big Ten, and the first team on the docket is Iowa. But yes, like Bryant said, Bryant's no longer in the big city tonight. If his Wi-Fi cuts out a little bit, bear with us. We'll make it work. Nolan and I will pick up. If Bryant cuts out for a minute and try to take it over until Bryant's able to get back in, no longer in the big city, Bryant. Welcome to the land of no fiber internet. So here we go. Iowa Hawkeyes, first team for the episode tonight. Their win total is sitting over under 6.5. The overs minus 170. The unders plus 140. Fellas, obviously Kirk Ferentz is still there. We've seen a lot of changes among the coaching staff at this Iowa football team through recent years. 8-4 last season. This team is full of returning starters with experience, way more than I honestly thought until I really dove into this Iowa football team. You look up and down this roster and you see senior, redshirt, senior, senior, redshirt, senior, senior, redshirt, senior. It is all over the place on both sides of the ball. You do lose Caleb Johnson, who was one of the best running backs in the country last year, but you plug it in with Kamari Moulton, who I think it's obviously a step down because Caleb Johnson was a freak, but this guy's a really damn good running back too. I think he's cut out for the job. This is a pretty damn good football team. I do have some questions around the quarterback play a little bit. You bring in Mark Gronkowski from South Dakota State. Shall I remind everybody that this guy is 37-3 as a starter and takes care of the football. You plug this into, honestly, what you were just talking about, Nolan, where you have a top-ranking defense that doesn't allow many points. Tell this guy, don't turn the ball over. You know how to win. Just find ways to win football games, baby. So, Nolan, where are you at with this Iowa football team?
I got him on the over. I think it comes down to two things, and it's two things we have already talked about in our question. It's the pass rush and it's the quarterback. Can we just get a slightly above average quarterback play because it's just been atrocious the last 2 years. And I was also looking up some stats on the receivers. They've not had an All-American receiver with postseason honors 2011. Do you know how long that is to not have any postseason honors as a receiver? It's been, I
Who
think
was
they
it?
said,
Do you know
oh,
by chance?
I don't know. That's just a stat they threw out at me. But they also said in the last 10 years, they have not had a receiver go over 420 yards in a
It's
season
terrible.
either.
It's terrible,
So,
man.
it,
They just been housing it to their tight ends.
yep. If we
Oh,
can
they
get
tied in you.
slightly above average quarterback play and we can get a good pass rush, I mean, this team, they might only lose just a few games. I'm looking at the Penn State game for sure, the Oregon game for sure, but if you have good quarterback play and you have a good pass rush, Indiana's going to come down to the wire. USC is going to come down to the wire. Minnesota will come down to the wire. I got them taking half of those games. I'm firmly on the over here.
Yeah, I think the 6.5 line is a bit of a slap in the face, in my opinion. I feel like this is going to move up a game, probably to 7.5, with it being minus 170 on the over. I got them at 9 wins. All of their relatively tough games, I feel like, minus maybe Nebraska, possibly Iowa State, are at home. They get Penn State and Oregon at home, Minnesota at home, Indiana at home. So those are their tougher games on the schedule. So I like Iowa to cover here. Kirk Ferentz is consistent. I think we're going to see some offensive play finally. I mean, Mark Gradkowski was an absolute animal at South Dakota State. Now that is an FCS school. Will it transfer? I don't know. That's to be seen. But you know, they need to be a little bit better on the run. They got gashed a bunch last year up the middle. So I think that's a question mark alongside with what Nolan said with the pass rush. And then like Colin said, who's going to replace Caleb Johnson? I think those are really their only two question marks. I think this is going to be a pretty good football team, in my opinion, with a relatively doable schedule. So I'm excited about this team. And, like you mentioned with Gradkowski, that plays right into this Iowa scheme. They take care of the football. They don't commit penalties. I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see a successful team that, honestly, I think could make a little bit of noise in the Big Ten this year.
Like I said a second, I'm the first to admit it. They are better than I thought. And the Mark Gronkowski ad, I think, is a very kind of under the radar ad. I know he was an FCS school, but fellas, they played big time games. I mean, they're making deep FCS playoff runs every single season. And this is a seasoned guy. If you can tell me that this guy can come in, I don't think I could have placed him in a better situation than to go play for Kirk Ferentz in Iowa and just have to take care of the football. That's all you have to do on this football team. Don't turn the ball over, and we're going to find ways to win you football games. I don't love the receiver situation, but it's probably what he's used to, right? I mean, he's not used to five-star burners on the outside at South Dakota State. I mean, this is what he's used to. He's used to working with a little bit less and making guys have the most out of what they have. So I like this situation for him. I do wish he had a year with Caleb Johnson because I think you could see this be really successful. But I think Moulton, like I said, steps in and does a fine job. Also, I'm with you guys. 6.5, a little bit disrespectful, but that's why we do see it at minus 170. And I think it does come with the Mark Gronkowski question marks. But I look at this schedule and I have 6 wins that I would give it an 80% chance or better to go win. And you mean to tell me between Iowa State, Indiana, USC, and Nebraska, all I got to do is go in and win 1 to 2 of those 4? Give me Kirk Ferentz and the over on 6.5 all day long. And I'm okay with this at 7.5. I'll be honest. I don't like it as much, but if I could tell you right now that they're going to go give me like plus 110, plus 115, plus 120 at 7.5, Kirk Ferentz, I'm riding with you, and I usually don't. So I like this Iowa football team. I think this over 6.5 is a layup.
I think this is one of those best bets right here. We're staring at it in the face.
Yeah, but I have a star next to this one right now. I
Yeah.
had it when I was looking at the notes for the thing. Like, this is one we got to look at here.
I mean, I have them losing the Iowa State, Penn State, Oregon, USC games, but I have the Iowa State and USC very coin flippy. Those are both away games. That's why I kind of went the other direction. And I think those two teams are also very good football teams as well. I did give them the nod against Indiana and Nebraska. And what you kind of see there is Indiana is a home game for them. Nebraska is an away game. But I mean, I think Iowa can just kind of outduel Nebraska, and that was one with Nebraska. We talked about how good we thought they were going to be. I found myself looking at them at like 11 wins at that point, 10 wins, and I was like, no, somebody's going to get them. So I feel like this Iowa football team can do it. But I'm with you, fellas. This will be a revisit for the best bet segment for sure. Anything else on Iowa?
No, sir.
I'm good there.
The next team that we have on our list is Maryland. The over/under 4.5, over -120, under +100. I'm going to be honest, don't have the same vibes like I do for Iowa with this football team. You have Mike Locksley still here as the head coach. I think his name's getting brought up in a lot of hot seat conversations. I don't really think they know what they have with him just yet, but I think, he could hopefully find the path and make things work for them. They were 4-8 last season, not great, but what you do kind of hang your hat on if you're Mike Locksley right now is you bring in Malik Washington, a 2025 quarterback, top-ranked quarterback coming in for this class. I would imagine he starts for them right away, but there's not a ton of talent around him. That's what makes me pretty nervous when you have a true freshman starter and you don't fill it out around him very well. Not the best offensive line in the country, not the best defense to go limit the points. But you do have the 34th ranked portal class, and you do bring in Jaleel Farouk from Oklahoma and Caleb Webb from Tennessee to come in and try to distribute the ball to those guys a little bit. So they do add a little bit to try to help him. But like I said, not a great defense. I feel like you're going to be behind a lot. And I don't love that combination with a true freshman quarterback, pending that he is for sure the day one starter. Bryant, where do you have Maryland at?
So the over under here is at 4.5. I got them at the under at 4. This is was a very young team in 2024. So they got a lot of play. I think that will help them this season, being a little bit more experience under their belt. But these guys aren't name brand dudes. They're not going to be, they're not going to win you a lot of football games. And I personally think they lost their two best players. They lost Ty Felton to the NFL, and they lost Roman Hemby to Indiana right down the road. So I just don't see it. I think their only wins are FAU, Northern Illinois, and Towson. And I gave them a toss-up win against Wisconsin. That's still under the 4. I think they lose the rest of their games. You know, I don't really have a whole lot much else to say about Maryland. Can these young guys prove it? We've seen in the past. I don't think it's going to happen.
Bryant, real quick, I wore this hat for one reason. Don't sleep on Northern Illinois. Don't sleep on Northern Illinois. You hear me?
Dude, Northern Illinois beat they beat Notre Dame last year, and then they lose their next game to like Connecticut or something.
Dude, they won like 3 more games, I think, if I remember. Like they were not good. Like they were not a good football team.
I'm
just
not worried.
A perfect storm all in one night. It'll never happen again. You bet on it 900 times.
Yeah.
899 of them Notre Dame wins.
Northern Illinois got absolutely gashed by the portal. They lost all their good dudes.
Hey, they felt good about them, but that's why I wore this hat. One reason I had to highlight that because one of our little listeners at the end of the year told me that I had to let go of that Northern Illinois loss, and I just couldn't do it, man. I still can't. So, Nolan, where are you at with Maryland?
I got them on the under too. They lost a decent amount in the transfer portal, and to replace it, they went to the FCS level, and it was not high-ranking teams at the FCS level and not dudes that performed at an elite level. If you're telling me that's who you're planning on starting, it's going to be big trouble for you this year. They also had the second worst offensive line in all of college football last year. They've not done terrible for Maryland recruiting out of high school. It's not been awful. I say take this year, you put in Malik Washington at quarterback, you play a bunch of your freshmen and sophomores, because otherwise it's going to be the same thing again next year. All of your freshmen and sophomores are going to transfer out, they're going to go to a bigger program, and then you're going to be stuck in this loop all over again. Play your freshmen, play your sophomores, win 3-4 games, but then let's try and build for next year.
Dude, the caveat to that though is, do you hide your freshmen so you don't like? It's a real if you're Maryland, you have to get your NIL and you have to get your funds right. Like you have to get that in check right now, or you're going to be a feeder program for the other Power 4 conferences, because that's what you saw here. I mean, you lose your best players. I'm with you. Play them. Hope to God they stay around, and you pay them their money to keep them around. And you say, hey, look what we did last year. We went through this grind to try to prevent this from happening again. So let's build on this and let's do it again together. And you got to hope the team buys into Mike Locksley. You got to hope they don't quit on him. It's a ugly situation for this Maryland team because it, like you said, it could be a revolving door here. But you see that's a lot of these lower end power conferences, especially the teams in the Big Ten and the SEC who are on the lower half that don't have the funds right, and it's a hard grind to try to keep things going. So I'm with you guys. I'm on the under two very comfortably, I'll say. The only pushback is like I made in the last couple episodes when you're out of conference schedule is FAU, Northern Illinois, and Towson, and you win 3, and all you got to do is go win 2 more. Stay away from this one because they could fall right into 5 wins. Do I think it happens? Probably not. But Malik Washington's going to have to be really good, and Webb and Farouk are really going to have to run open. So don't love it. I do have them winning against Michigan State, just kind of on a, I don't know, maybe like a vibes thing for me when I was looking at that a little bit. Don't love that. I was trying to be generous. I'm more so at 3-3 only.
There's also some long travel here. I'm a big long travel person. If you don't have a good offensive line, it's hard to travel your entire team. I'm looking at like Washington. That's a complete cross country plane ride. That's rough, man. I'm looking at Nebraska. I know it's middle of the country, but that's still a decent plane ride. And I'm looking at Indiana. Are those teams, are they just going to overlook Maryland? Is it going to be a trap game? You get on a plane for 6, 8, 10 hours. That's rough, man.
Yeah, without a doubt, it's not a good setup for them, man. Not much is good. And you look at this schedule, like you said, it's a relatively tough schedule. I mean, you have a Washington and Nebraska, Indiana, Illinois, Michigan. It's not great. I mean, you do avoid Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, but outside of that, you got all those mid-tier teams and up to those 3. You got them all. So
Yeah, when you avoid all 3 of those teams you just mentioned, I think they're top echelon in this conference, and your win total still at 4.5.
it's not
That
great.
says something right there. I think the only way this team can click whatsoever is, like I mentioned, if the guys that played last year that are still there that have that experience can somehow click and jumpstart from that, they can maybe win a few more games than 4.5. But I just don't see it, man.
I wish we could give this schedule to one of those other second tier teams in the Big Ten, like Indiana, Iowa, Nebraska, somebody like that. I wish we could give them this schedule and let's just flip flop theirs and Maryland's schedule and let's see what
Yeah,
goes on. Are you truly a top of the second tier team in the Big Ten, or are we just kind of pretending?
yeah. I would love to see that. Are we good on Maryland?
Good.
Yeah, I don't know.
Good. Good luck
Nothing
to
else on the Terps.
good luck to the Terps fans. Moving on to Indiana. Indiana over under 8.5. The overs plus 105. The unders minus 125. This is a really good football team, fellas. Really, obviously exceeded expectations. Kind of goes without being said. If you followed college football and you followed this show, it's one of the best stories in college football last year. Kurt Signetti comes in and immediately turns this thing on its head and makes this a contending program. And nobody really saw that coming this quick. They were 11-1 last season. You do lose Curtis Rourke, who I made a case on this show last year. I thought his name should be in some Heisman conversations. I thought he played very good football. And to come find out that this guy was playing on a blown knee for a couple right there at the end of the season, I mean, showed some true guts, shows some true leadership. But you do plug him, Fernando Mendoza, in for Curtis Rourke. You had the 22nd ranked portal class. Bryant talked about this a second ago. You go pluck Maryland's best player and bring in Roman Hemby to come be the running back for you. I have read in their camp a little bit that he's not necessarily the guaranteed starter, which is crazy that they have 2 running backs that damn good on their roster that if he's not guaranteed to get the majority of the carries, love a 2-headed monster if he is not the for sure deal to have the job. Also, you bring in Pat Coogan, stud center, one of the top ranked transfer linemen that we had in the portal. And I am a huge believer in cornerback D'Angelo Pons. He leads all returning corners with a 91.8 PFF grade over the course of the last 2 seasons. I made a case for him on our episode over the summer, talking about some of the best players to watch out for in certain conferences. He was on my list. Love D'Angelo Pons. Nolan, where are you at with Indiana this season?
I have Indiana on the over, and before I go too much into it, Indiana's schedule made me rethink my Illinois take last week. I was kind of back and forth. I was trying to listen to you guys' takes. I'm pretty firmly on the under for Illinois, and it comes down to this Indiana game, which really made me look into it. Indiana's got a couple good pass rushers this year. Illinois, as I'm talking about Luke Altmaier and we did last week, he got worse and worse and worse as the game goes on. Completion percentage, he dropped from a 67 to a 53% completion first quarter compared to fourth quarter. All those Pat Bryant and Luke Altmaier miracles that happened last year to keep him in the game to win the game, I don't see it happening. So I'm good on Indiana hitting the over, and I'm giving them that Illinois game. I'm not even putting it as a coin flip. I'm giving them the win by touchdown, 10 points, somewhere in that range. I don't think Illinois can keep up with them. The only games I'm looking at here on the schedule is the Iowa game, the Oregon game, and the Penn State game. And if you tell me they lose all three of those, I'm still hitting the over, and I think it's a coin flip Iowa game. So 9-3, 10-2. I'm pretty good on the over for them.
Yeah, I'm right in line with Nolan. I have the same record for them with 9 wins. Tough road schedule in my opinion. They got Iowa, Oregon, and Penn State, like you mentioned, but I have them winning out at home. I really do think this comes down to, can Fernando Mendoza be the guy? Um, he was above average at Cal. He wasn't great. He was one of the better transfer portal quarterbacks in the transfer portal this past season. He was highly sought after. So for them to land him was great. I trust Kirk Signetti, and that guy's won everywhere he's been, Indiana, James Madison, etc.
That's
So
why I like Mendoza,
yeah,
because he was Signetti.
yes,
If he was at Cal and doing what he was doing at Cal with what Cal had and their coaching, and he was still above average and making it work, I think this is very Curtis Rourke-esque to come in and do the same damn thing, to be honest with you.
yeah.
But
This
I'm on
reminds
the
me.
go ahead.
This gives me a lot of the feeling of like a Jeff Brom and Miller Moss type situation where, yeah, he might not be a plus type quarterback, but you trust the coach to get him where he wants to be or where he
For,
needs to be.
for sure. But with me saying that, you probably didn't see this coming. I am on the under. And the reason I am on the under is because I am the opposite of you two on the Illinois stance. So I got to ride with that. I'm going to ride with myself. I'm going to stay firm on this. It comes down to the 4 games that Nolan and Bryant have talked about already: the Illinois, the Iowa, the Oregon, the Penn State. Now, what Bryant said, the away schedule being Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, I don't think you win those games regardless. So I've made this case before. Play that shit on the road, take your losses, and win everything else at home, and take your shitty opponents on the away schedule. You play Maryland and Purdue, mop the floor with them. I mean, take those two, beat that ass, come back home, and keep winning games at home. But I do think Illinois can get it done. But it is very true of what you guys are saying, that Illinois game is very much so the flip on if you're on the over or the under, in my opinion, on Indiana. They should clean house on this schedule the rest of the way through. If you think Indiana is better than Illinois, go out there and bet the over. If you think Illinois is better than Indiana, bet the under or just don't touch it. If you think they're better
Colin,
than Illinois, go bet this.
who would you rather have? I call him Bert because I just don't really like him very much. Bert Bielema or Kurt Signetti?
Much
Who would you
rather
rather
have
have?
Signetti. Much rather
Yeah,
have
so
Signetti.
take the under in Illinois all day.
I think that is way
That dude
closer than
folds
you
under
fellas
pressure.
think. I think that is way closer than you fellas think.
Take the under.
That needs to be like a whole episode discussion, because I do love Kurt Signetti though. I really do, and he proved that he can go win. I mean, how did he not? But I mean, Beelan was also doing good things at Illinois, things that haven't been done in quite some time at Illinois. So I'm not taking anything away from that guy. I do think that Altmaier, if you break it down to Altmaier and the Mendoza conversation to try to compare them to, I'm going to lean Altmaier, to be honest with you, just because I know Altmaier did it and can do it. I know that stat that no one threw out. It is ugly. But I think there's a lot more that kind of comes into play when you really break that down to a fourth quarter. I mean, if we're going to do that, I kind of want to see what Mendoza's numbers were. Maybe he proves me wrong and Mendoza was like way better in the fourth quarter or something. So then
He
I'd maybe
was
go the other way.
He was a gunslinger last year, more so than Curtis Rourke was. Curtis Rourke
Yeah,
took care of the ball a lot.
very much so.
Mendoza is definitely the gunslinger, Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre type guy, fit it in a tight window, trust my arm type thing. If he can cut out some of those turnover worthy plays, he doesn't even have to be a game manager. I'm not saying take a big step back or anything. I'm just saying don't have so much confidence that you can fit it in
Yeah,
a 1 foot window 40 yards downfield. If you can do that, I mean, you're an NFL quarterback.
yeah, your
If you
first pick.
if
Very
you're an
Swiss
NFL
football.
quarterback, are you really transferring from Cal to Indiana? And why are you not going to one of the big title contender schools at that point?
That was my only thing too with this Mendoza thing a little bit. He was one of the higher portal quarterbacks, and there's some bigger name teams that maybe could have dipped their toes a little bit that don't have a sure thing at quarterback. So I'm anxious to see how this goes. I believe in it because Curtis worked. How can I sit here and tell you that I think Mark Gronkowski is going to work at Iowa and tell you that I don't think Mendoza is going to work at Indiana? I mean, I would be talking on both sides of my hand. So I do think that this can work. And you see Curtis Work step up from Ohio in the MAC conference to Indiana, and it worked. So this should work. Should
I tell
work.
you what, though, I'm excited about this Illinois Iowa game or Indiana game. Excuse me. Indiana's going to be 3-0 going to that game. Late September, first Big Ten game. So, Bloomington's an underrated place to play, in my opinion. I
Oh
think
yeah.
it's tougher than people think. So that's going to be a fun game to watch there early on in the season. I think it's a turning point type game for both teams.
Yeah, that is like I don't want make or break is so cliche, but like a make or break moment for these two teams. Honestly, I really think it is. So great game to
Contender and
tune into.
pretender week right there.
100%. That's a fantastic game to tune into. Don't miss that one. Anything else on Indiana and Kurt Signetti?
Nope.
Okay. Moving on to Michigan State. The over under is at 5.5. The over is minus 135. The under is plus 115. Fellas, this is a Michigan State team that just has kind of seemed to not really have it since their late playoff push a few years back. And this is still not the best football team. They're 5-7 last year. Jonathan Smith, early in his career at Michigan State, I think he came over from Oregon State, if I remember correctly, and brought Aiden Childs with him, who was a really high recruited, sought after quarterback that we haven't really seen kind of blossom into his own just yet. So does it kind of happen this year? He also hasn't had the most playing time yet. I know he was a starter last year. Kind of anxious to see how it works out for him this year. This should be one of those moments where it's a big step. We talk a lot about how when you come into a couple seasons down the road after being a starter, you should really take the step up and become a higher level quarterback. Can he do it is the real question. You have Nick Marshall there as a reliable receiver for them this year. It's a sophomore season. This guy's a very underrated talent, very underrated receiver. You do have a lot of turnover on the offensive line. Don't love that when you have your quarterback questions, and not a great defense. Don't love that when you have quarterback questions. All things you've already talked about, right? If you're getting behind because your defense isn't that good and your quarterback is still trying to blossom a little bit, kind of a recipe for disaster. Your offensive line's not great, kind of a recipe for disaster. They did have the 28th portal class, so got to note that. Bryant, do you love Michigan State? Or are you still on the under on Michigan State?
I'm on the under for this team. I have them losing every true away game. Personally, this is not an easy schedule. I think they lose all their away games, like I mentioned: USC, Nebraska, Indiana, Minnesota, Iowa. I think they pull off the neutral game against Maryland. Then they got to play Michigan and Penn State at home. And honestly, Boston College isn't really a surefire win either. So I got them under at 5. I did a little digging on why Michigan State is kind of struggling. Since that playoff run you were talking about, Colin, they are bottom 15% in the country on special teams, turnovers, penalties, sacks given up, and red zone efficiency. All 5 of those metrics. So if they can somehow prove that, I think it'd be better. But like that's stuff that kind of seems to linger on. It's kind of a coaching staff type issue, it seems like, for the most part. So I just don't see a whole lot of playmakers on this team. Aiden Childs is yet to be proven. So I just don't see it with Michigan State. This is the Michigan State of old. So I got them at 5 wins.
Let's not forget, too, though, didn't they have some coaching situations going on a couple years ago, 3 years ago? Mel Tucker, wasn't there some? They were kind
Yeah.
of in the news for some of the wrong reasons. Maybe they can kind of turn it around. I mean, Jonathan Smith was a good coach at Oregon State. I mean, he made the most of what he had, and they were no slouch opponent for anybody. I mean, I remember them going toe to toe in games with Oregon. I mean, so this is I don't know. I'm with you. I'm firmly on the under on this. I only have 2 sure wins, and then I gave them 3 coin flip wins. So I'm right around 4, 4.5 at best. And that's really all I have on this Michigan State team. I do think they're a team for me that college football is better and the Big Ten is better when Michigan State is better. So I want to see them get back. I want to see Jonathan Smith get this team back. I'm here to say, though, if Aiden Childs does hit, like he was highly recruited to do, if he does hit, and Bryant, we said this so many times last year with a guy by the name of Nico Iamaleie, but if he does, this can be a good football team.
Yeah, it was if every week.
It was this every week. And I feel like Aiden Childs is going to be our guy this year for the same category, if he does. So I'm on the under because I don't think he does.
I'll tell you why they're going to hit the over.
Please enlighten me.
They were decimated by injuries last year. They lost 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen. So you talk about sacks. Aiden Childs took 27 of them last year. He's a mobile guy. He just could not make a decision is his problem. If you give him just a little bit of time and you give him another year in the offense to process some things a little bit faster, I think they can knock off one of those kind of mid-tier teams that you guys are talking about. Looking at like Minnesota, somebody like that. I think they can knock somebody off like that at the end of the year, even though it's at Minnesota. The other thing is, you talked about their receivers. They got a couple transfers that are pretty decent. Nick Marsh is really good, but if you can double cover him or bracket coverage him with a safety all game long, it makes it tough to be a number 1 receiver and put up some stats. They went out and they got a true number 2 and a true number 3 for this offense this year. I think they could be much better if they just stay healthy. If they can just get better injury luck this year, I mean, I don't think it's going to be super far over. I have them at 6 wins, so I can't lie to you and say I'm going to put them at 7 or 8. But at the same time, they stay healthy. I think they get the Boston College game. They stay healthy. I think they get the Minnesota game, and that's what gets them to the 6 wins. I think they get USC. We talked about it on the last episode. I'm not a big USC guy. I think Lincoln Riley was kind of propped up by his Heisman winning quarterbacks a little bit. And I think his team is just kind of soft, I guess I would say, at the end of games. Michigan State, nobody has ever once called them soft. They are a hard-nosed team. If you are not ready for the 4th quarter and you're not ready for a dogfight, they'll put it to you.
And it's a tough place to play. And I also think that any Spartans fan out there would be completely content, honestly, if they're a smart fan, with a bowl game, with 6-6 bowl game. That's a trend in the right direction. That's trying to get things back. That's Jonathan Smith and Aiden Childs, in my opinion, proving it. We're like, hey, give us 1 more year. Buy us some time. We're trying to get this thing right. We're coming out of the depths of the tunnel that we were just in, and we're scratching and clawing to the surface right now and taking the top off the sewer cap back to the street. We're almost there. So I do think I could buy into that a little bit, Nolan, a little bit, but I'm still going to stay on the under for now.
Yep.
We may revisit this one.
It's not somebody that I would take a bet and feel really good about, but if you're a risky bettor and you want to take a flyer, a $5-10 bet, put it on them.
The over is kind of juiced for being where we're talking about these guys at minus 135 on the over. That's something I would stay away from. If that was plus money, I would think about it.
Yeah, if those odds were honestly flipped, I would be more apt to hop on that. But I mean, you're telling me at minus 135, I don't know what they're seeing that I'm not, because no thanks. Not at minus 135. I can't even try to justify it. I can't even try. Moving on to Washington. The over-under at 7.5. The over at plus 110. The under at minus 130. 6-6 season last year. Jed Fish year 2. Denzel Boston and Jonah Coleman are 2 of the best in the business at their positions. Love that combination. Damon Williams Jr. can absolutely sling the rock. And if you saw their final game last year when he went out there and threw for 374 and 4 touchdowns, you saw that this guy can sling the rock as well. And you give me a gunslinger with Jed Fish and what he was able to do with Noah Fafita and Denzel Boston a couple years ago at Arizona, Denzel Boston may not be Ted McMillan, but I can promise you that Damon Williams Jr. is better than Noah Fafita. So give me this situation. I am all in on this Washington football team. The major question that I have when I dissect this football team is, what does the transfer defense look like for the Washington football team? Nolan, tell me you're in line with me on this Washington football team.
I'm in line with you. I got him hitting the over. And the only games I really have him struggling in is the Ohio State and maybe the Michigan game. Looking into Michigan, I think they're maybe a little better than we were wanting to give them credit for last week. So I think it's going to be a slightly tougher place to play, especially if you're playing at Michigan. That's always a rough one to play. But if you're telling me that's the only two that I'm really looking at where I'm struggling in, and again, I'm looking at the Illinois game and I'm on the under. So take it as you will. But I have them 9-3, 10-2, if that's the case, and that would be dropping both the Ohio State and the Michigan game. The only thing that I can see tripping them up, I guess I would say, they have the bye week before Washington State, yes, but then you go technically home game, I guess. Washington State, you're not really traveling that far. You go home Ohio State, you travel all the way across country to Maryland, back home to Rutgers, and then you go to Michigan, and then back home to Illinois. That's a rough stretch of games there, boys. If you're going to trip up and you're not going to hit the over, it's going to be because of that middle schedule right there.
So you have them beating Oregon, or you don't?
I don't see Oregon on their schedule. I'm looking at it here. Where's Oregon at?
Best game of the season.
That's like their rival game. They play Oregon on November 29th.
Oh, okay, they dropped that game for me. So yeah,
They play him with the
even
Seahawks.
even give them the Oregon game as a loss. I'm still taking the over.
Yes. And the reason I was asking, because I'm with you. I thought I was crazy for having this team at 9-3 or 10-2, but that's where I'm at. And I think I'm more 10-2 than I'm more 9-3. The more I look at this, the Ohio State Oregon game, probably not. Probably not, right? But I do have them beating a Michigan team. I'm not retracting anything I said about Michigan last week. I'm going to say the same thing like I did for Nebraska. Why should Washington be scared of Michigan? They shouldn't be. I did have Washington beating Illinois. I had Illinois losing to Washington on that win total, and I still had Illinois hitting the over. But I did have them dropping the game against Washington, so I'm standing my ground on that as well. And I'm 10-2. If I take those two coin flip games against Michigan and Illinois, I'm at 9.5. So I'm comfortably on the over on this one, and I'm sprinting to this one. And I already have invested in this one because it is one of my favorites and anyone that we've talked about so far this season. I'm all in on Washington.
Yeah, it's so funny, Colin, you mentioned that. I literally have on my notes here over at 9 question mark. Like, I feel like I'm doing something wrong, but I like this Washington team.
Tease this
You
shit
mentioned
to 8.5.
Jed Fish is a great coach. I think Nolan. I think you go back to that pendulum schedule of the travel. Jed Fish knows how to handle that. Being at Arizona, they traveled a bunch down there, and they go all over the country to play, especially in this new day and age of college football. So I think he knows how to handle that. It could possibly be a slip up, but I think they'll be fine there. My two issues with Washington that could also give them a hiccup is pass protection and pass rush. Last year they gave up a bunch of sacks. I think they'll be able to hopefully limit that this season. And then also they did not get very many sacks. They only had 29 last year, and 13 of them were in 2 games against UCLA and Eastern Michigan. So if they can bolster up those tackles and protect Damon Williams a little bit more, and also get a little bit more of a pass rush, I think it's going to be a lethal team. Personally, the fact that they get Ohio State and Oregon at home, those are going to be fun games to watch, I think.
Hey, we have a spoiler. We have a Heisman episode later, closer to the season. I say later, that's as in closer to the season. And you guys are going to hear me make a case for a deep flyer on Damon Williams to go get really juicy odds on him for a Heisman winner. Because I'm here to tell you right now, if we truly think that this team is 10-2, 9-3-ish, that probably means they're making a playoff push, and they're probably not doing that if Damon Williams doesn't have one hell of a season. So, spoiler alert, you will hear me say his name again.
That's intriguing. We'll have to write that one down. See how that
Save
checks
that.
out
Hey,
come
book it.
November.
Save that shit. That's coming back out in the notes.
So since we're all three, 9-3, 10-2 kind of range, what are we missing that everybody else is not talking about? What, because everybody's talking about Illinois as the darling team in the Big Ten. They're
It
saying
almost
they're
seems
gonna run it. Why are we so high on Washington compared to other people?
it almost seems like the country is still on a like sick leave now that we lost Penix and Jalen Polk and Rome
Yeah.
Odunze. Like, oh, those guys aren't there anymore. Like, they're not going to be any good. I almost legit feel like that's the issue.
And honestly, you're
Okay.
probably right. But dude, Denzel Boston, I mean, I'm not saying he's a maybe I am saying he's actually a first round pick because he's got first round potential as a receiver. Like this is one of the better receivers that's not talked about in college football. Let's you bring up a great point. Let's do the schedule real quick. Colorado State, UC Davis layups. Washington State, it's kind of a rivalry game. Washington State just got absolutely gutted in the portal. Should be a layup. Ohio State, they're probably going to get you. Maryland, not good. Rutgers, not good. Michigan, Illinois, depends on how you feel about them. Let's say you give them those two losses. This team still sits at 8-4 because Wisconsin, not good. Purdue, yuck. UCLA, not good. Oregon, probably going to get you. So now we're at 8-4. What? I'm with you. What are we missing in Washington State, Maryland, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA? Who is better than them? Not any of those teams, right?
I feel like I
Just
feel like I feel like pundits across college football in the country are just a lot higher on Illinois and Wisconsin and those type teams than we are personally.
But even if you do give them the Michigan, Illinois loss and the Ohio State, Oregon loss, you're still at 8-4.
Yeah.
Like you're still sitting at plus odds on an over.
do
That's
you think
that's
it's the
that's
the
losing all those.
returning production at quarterback for Illinois? I'm confused whenever I look at it. I'm
But
mind
you
blown.
but you got to give me like maybe it is the Wisconsin game because surely it's not Maryland, Rutgers, UCLA, Washington State, or Purdue,
Yeah.
unless
No.
unless one of you two are fixing to blow my socks off when we talk about UCLA next and how all of a sudden Nico is that guy, the if guy we talked about all last season, all of a sudden gets on a worse team and a worse coaching staff, and now he's the guy. This this is a layup. I mean, this is the easiest over that we could talk about. And I'm being devil's advocate saying they lose their 4 hard games. This is still a layup. Maybe it's the travel. I don't know. Maybe no one. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's the travel. I have no idea. I can't find it.
Time will tell. I think this is another one we put a star next to for
Yeah.
our best bets.
Cash
Very
checks
much
on
agree.
this one. Cash checks on this one. Make your check payment with this one. Moving on to UCLA. UCLA over under 5.5, over plus 115, under minus 135. 5-7 last year. Deshaun Foster, year 2. Last year we see him go to Big Ten media days, hop on the portal, and freeze. Nothing. I froze for a second. I couldn't do it any longer. I was already getting drove nuts by it. That guy went up there and absolutely locked up. So it kind of showed in the season a little bit. I mean, they weren't that great. They also don't have tons of talent. Nico Iamaleava does come out to this UCLA football team. Does it make him a whole lot better? I don't know. We talked about him just a second ago. What do you think about Nico at this point? I don't know. They have the number 20 portal class. A lot of that is because of Nico. Not a fan of many pieces on this team outside of him. Not a returning receiver that really even sniffed 400 yards on this football team. You know, Javian Thomas, running back from Cal, can be kind of a bright spot if we're trying to find a bright spot outside of the quarterback position. You lose your linebacker that was really damn good last year. What was his name? Schwessinger, or what was his name? He was a top-ranked linebacker in the country. Can't really say his name is why I'm struggling with it. Don't love this defense. So with all that being said, it's pretty obvious that I'm on the under 5.5 in this one. It is minus 135, and I don't hate those odds on that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Colin. I got them under 4. Even with Nico, and you mentioned Javian Thomas, I think those two guys can be pretty good players in this team, but they don't have a whole lot else besides them. This is honestly a pretty tough schedule too. They got Penn State, um, USC on the road, Ohio State on the road, Indiana on the road, Nebraska at home. I mean, Washington at home. We like them, so there's not a lot of room on the schedule for Aaron to get better than they were last season. That being said, they have a pretty good high school recruiting class that's coming in. Now, I don't think the freshmen are going to translate this season. So I think we could talk about them in the future. I don't think Nico's enough to push you over the edge. We saw what he did with better players at Tennessee. Um, that being said, this team won 4 of their last 6 in 2024 on the back of their defense. And they're returning a decent amount of players from that side of the ball. I don't think this is a great team on that side of the ball whatsoever, but they can lean on them a little bit. I think than people think. I still got them under at 4. I don't see many wins on this schedule, honestly. I even have them losing to Utah. So um, take the under on UCLA. That's where I'm at.
I'm the same way. If Nico couldn't figure it out at Tennessee with some of the players they got there, I have no reason to believe he's going to figure it out here at UCLA. And I think that's about all I have on UCLA, to be completely honest. I think,
I can
like you said, they get the Utah game, or I'm sorry, Utah gets them. I can't find many wins on the schedule for them.
I can honestly see Nico like week 6, like Bam saying like, "Nah, man," and, like Anthony Richardson did last year with the Colts, just pull himself out of the game because he's tired.
Pour it on out. Here's one thing that I looked at, because I don't have much on this UCLA team either, because I don't think there's much to talk about outside of Nico. And I'm here to tell you that this UCLA schedule this year is tougher for Nico than the Tennessee schedule was for Nico last year with more talent. They did play
Absolutely.
Georgia and Alabama last year. Obviously, good luck to any teams that played those teams. But you come back and look at this one, they have Penn State and Ohio State, eerily similar. And then after that, your next best opponent was an Florida team and an Oklahoma team. Okay, so then I sprinkle in Indiana, Nebraska. Well, outside of that, I add Washington, USC to this as well, and it gets a whole lot tougher than the Kentucky and Arkansas. So, yeah, what
And
do
he
we
lost Arkansas.
precisely? Like, I don't like it. I don't. This guy, his decisions. I don't know if he listened to his family. There was all kinds of rumblings about what took place and what happened and how he wanted more money. This was a really, really bad decision on his part, and I hope he proves me wrong. I was a Nico fan. I kind of lost a little bit for him here after all this went down, but hopefully he proves me wrong. Maybe he's gambling on himself and he's going to go let her fly. So maybe UCLA does find it very comfortable on the under here, and it's
I
only
think
minus
uh,
135.
I think UCLA is a big if this year, Colin.
We're gonna, you know what? We'll do it again. We'll do it again. If Nico finds it this week, UCLA might beat Northwestern.
We just need a
Totally
whole
different conversation than what it was last year.
new segment. The if of the week.
The if of the
Nico,
week.
what's your stats for this week?
Or we could just call it the Nico of the week, because that was what it was last year. We'll just call it the Nico
Yeah.
of the week, and it might be his new rival, Joey Aguilar, and you never know with that. Moving on to Michigan Wolverines, the over-under is 8.5. The over is minus 160. The under is plus 135. This is a football team that we haven't really been shy about in previous episodes or time before this when we're talking about this football team. Nolan kind of appears to be taking a little bit of a step back on the stance that we had. I'm here to stand on my stance a little bit with them. They were 7-4 or 7-5 last year. Sorry, Sharon Moore, year 2 in this 35th ranked portal class. You have Mikey Keene, Phenom Bryce Underwood. Let me throw some more drama at you. Jake Garcia comes in the portal here late. They do get Justice Haynes to come in to play running back for them from Alabama. Colston Loveland's gone. The running backs are gone. Their best 3 defensive players are gone to the draft. It looks like a lot's going to fall on senior linebacker Derek Moore's shoulders. He should be the guy for this defense. I still don't love the receivers. I love the tight end less. I love the running back situation less. I love the quarterback situation, even though I don't know who it is yet, 100 times more than I loved it last year. But that was an atrocious situation to have at a power school like this, a quarterback last year. And credit to them, though, they still found 7 wins. So, Bryant, are you retracting our statement a little bit about Michigan last week? And are you going to find your way to the over on Michigan at 8.5?
I actually got the over barely at 9, just because I think this schedule is just an absolute gift. Um, USC on the road, Michigan State on the road, Northwestern, Maryland. None of those games really scared me. I gave the loss on Oklahoma and Nebraska I think they could beat Oklahoma or Nebraska personally. And then they avoid Penn State and Oregon as a whole. I only think they lose to Iowa State at home. I gave them the Washington game. I just think the Big House is a tough place to play, and they'll show up for that game. I like Sherrone Moore. I think he's filled in very well after losing Harbaugh to the NFL. So they did lose loads of talent, and there's a bunch of question marks at the quarterback. But this schedule is very gettable. Personally, I'm on the over, but I really could see them going under and getting 7 or 8 wins too. So I'm not like locked in on the over, but that's where I have it.
What about you, Nolan?
I have a question for you, Colin. Where are you finding all of these losses at? As we're talking about different teams, I mean, yeah, we like Nebraska. I think you were a little higher on USC than me. We all like Washington. You guys didn't like Michigan State. I'm just not sure where you're finding these losses, is my real question.
I had them losing to Oklahoma, Nebraska, Washington, Ohio State. There's 4. That puts them at 8-4. I have a coin flip game against USC. I think that could go either direction. I really do. So that brings me in right at the under. I had them about 7.5, 8-ish. And
Okay.
so that does put them on the under. But my stance was always, why are these teams that we think are taking massive steps up, aka a Nebraska, aka a Washington? My stance with those teams against a Michigan is, why should those teams be inferior, be scared of Michigan? Because the Michigan that was there 2 years ago is no longer there. That Michigan defense that was even there last year that allowed them to compete in football games is not there. I mean, that Michigan team is kind of gone, and unless they come back and redo it this year somehow, I don't think it happens this year. Now, if Bryce Underwood pans out and everything is true about what we see and what we hear and what we watch and read about Bryce Underwood, good God, look out. Michigan might dominate again the next 3 years. I just don't think it happens right away. And there's not a running back or a receiver on this team that scares me if I'm a Nebraska, an Oklahoma, a Washington, Ohio State. I think that they will beat the teams that they should beat. I don't know if they win the games or the going gets a little bit tough.
I I can get down with that. I I don't think they're going to be a great team. They're not in the Michigan of 2 years ago, like you said. I just, like Bryant said, this schedule is a gift. I think that's how they get to the kind of 8-9 range. And me being down on USC, I'll give them the USC game. That brings me to 9.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right where I'm at.
and,
Right where
and me
I'm at.
having them at 8-4, I mean, that's nothing. I know you won a national championship a couple of years ago, but that's nothing to really hang your hat. I mean, you shouldn't be too upset about 8-4. I mean, that's not a bad season, especially when you have quite a bit of turnover. I mean, like I said, you lost your 3 best players on defense to the draft, and 2 of them were first rounders. 2 of them were top 10, I believe, and Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham. I mean, that's a hell of a lot to replace. I mean,
Yep.
you made the stance earlier, right, about how a top 10 defense is what you pay for. That's gone. Like, where do we go now? So
And
they're
serious
still a good
question:
team. They're just not
Are we
scary.
are we sure Bryce Underwood's the quarterback?
Mm-mm. No,
See,
because why'd you bring
I
in
don't
Jay
think that's
Garcia?
I
It
don't
has
think that's
not
set
been
in stone either.
announced.
I don't think it's set in stone either.
I would. You want to be honest with you? What I truly would bet on if I was better, I think Mikey Keene starts, and then I think you could see like Bryce Underwood transition into that role in the back half of the season. Really, honestly, where I'd plug Bryce Underwood in at is if they are, this is what I have them projected at. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have them at 4-2, which is not a stellar start after the USC game. Then I have them going and losing to Washington, and then they'd be 4-3. And I think that's where you could kind of see a Sherrone Moore make the, hey, Bryce Underwood's our guy. Because if he's smart, and that's the time to do it, because then you go play Michigan State, Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland. You're the better football team in those 4 games. You could find it. You could say, Bryce, let her fly, try to get comfortable. These are 4 opponents that we should just outmuscle. So here's your time. And that's kind of where I see it. And then you kind of end on getting punched in the mouth by Ohio State, because I think Ohio State absolutely thrashes them this season. And it's long time due. So that's all
Revenge
I
game
have
from
on
last
Michigan.
year.
The
Yep.
revenge game from last couple of years. It might be paddle to ass in that football game. I mean,
Yeah.
it should be.
I think Ohio State has a chip on their shoulder in that game this year.
Oh
I
yeah,
think there'll be no
honestly,
flag playing this year.
Ohio State fans just won a national championship. That's great. If you could ask them if they would rather probably go win the Big Ten or go 1-11 and their one win be against Michigan, they would. I bet 50-50 would say, "Give me the 1-11 and beat Michigan rather than win the Big Ten and lose to Michigan again." I mean, that I bet it'd be 50-50. All
Right
right,
there with you.
moving on from Michigan, we head over to the less entertaining Northwestern football team. The over/under win total at 3.5. Over -145. The under +125. Fellas, somebody has to lose these football games, and it looks like it might just be Northwestern. Somebody has to lose them in the Big Ten. It's probably going to be them. 4-8 last year. David Bryant as the head coach still. Don't love anything about this team at all. Full of transfers and not good ones. I guess you would say the best player on this football team looks like it might be Preston Stone in from SMU. If anybody remembers him, he was the starter there. Where did he come from before SMU? Was it Memphis? Memphis, SMU, Northwestern?
Yes.
So kind of bounced around a little bit. You see him get beat out by Kevin Jennings midseason last year. This team has its hands full. David Braun has its hands full. Another team that kind of has some coaching issues come up, make some moves, not good things in the news. Now we're here. Bryant, Northwestern, how you feeling?
I got them under at 3. I agree with you. I think Preston Stone's probably their best player. Cam Porter's a decent running back. Their defense was actually not bad last year, but they lost a bunch of players. All I really have on them is they're building a pretty cool new stadium that's going to be ready next season. So that's
Lots of
exciting.
wins.
But bad offense at 24, I think it continues this year. I got the under, and I even have Tulane beating them because they have to travel to Tulane to open the season.
No one.
I'm the same. I got the under. I said it last week. I'll say it this week. In the NIL era, take the loss, take the check.
Fellas,
You don't have the over, do you?
Northwestern fans, get fired up. You are going 4-8 this season, baby.
Oh,
Who are your wins?
You listen. Give me a second. You play Tulane, which you actually might lose, but you play Tulane, Western Illinois, ULM. You've got to win those 3. You
Dude, I
have
think
to win those 3 football games.
Tulane
If you lose
beats them.
Tulane, if you lose Tulane, this goes out the window in week 1, and I'll come back and tell you guys, Northwestern fans, I'm sorry, you are 2-10. I mean, so you have to beat Tulane. But they also play Purdue, who is horrible. If I was to drop an F-bomb, it is right now about how bad Purdue is. So you need to go 4-8 again, and you need to be happy about it. You need to be happy because you're not beating Oregon, you're not beating UCLA, you're not beating Penn State, you're not beating Nebraska, you're not beating USC, Michigan, Minnesota, Illinois. You got a bad schedule, and you're a bad team. You got to win those other 4. For the love of God, don't let us down, David Braun. If you lose to Tulane, they might have a coaches meeting and be like, I know we're not good, but this can't happen. So
the green wave they're going to be pretty good this season.
they lost their quarterback. That's all I'm telling myself. They lost their quarterback, Darian Mensah. He gone. Northwestern has to win that football game. I cannot make that clear enough. They have to win. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm all in on Northwestern, baby.
I'm going to buy you a Northwestern shirt when I'm up in Chicago and bring it back to you. So that'll be fun.
If you guys do, I promise I won't wear it because I don't want to be that big of a loser. But I think they get to 4 wins. It's 3.5 for me, but I'm going to give it to them. Moving on to the team that everybody's probably waiting to hear about, Ohio State Buckeyes, reigning national champions. What a season for them. Didn't look great. Looked like this team was going to melt and maybe beat up Ryan Day at the 50 after the Michigan football game. But things really turned around. I have said before on shows, I think there are such good things as good losses. And that was a good loss for Ohio State because it completely got the ship right and it completely got everybody to buy in. This over-under is sitting at 10.5. The over is plus 120. The under is minus 140. Fellas, I'm going to let you guys go ahead and take it. Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me who your players are. Tell me what you're most excited for about with Ohio State football, Nolan.
got them on the over. I got them 11-1. I think it comes down to their quarterback, Julian Sayin, and he has one of the best safety blankets in all of football. Just when in doubt, find Jeremiah Smith and throw it to him. Same thing on the defense. They have one of the best safety blankets in all of football. Leave Caleb Downs on an island by himself. The other 10 guys, you got to worry about what you are doing at this point. If you can tell me receiver and your field side corner are just locked up, number 1, number 2, maybe best college players in all of the sport, you're not going to lose many games, man. I think it's a deep playoff run again for him this year. It's just, does Julian Sayin process the defense well? If he can and he can make smart decisions, sky's the limit.
Yeah, they got replaced, a lot with losing Travion Henderson and Judkins, but man, I got them going undefeated. Personally, I think they beat the brakes off Texas week one. I think their only other toss-up game is Penn State, and they've had their number a lot recently. I think Penn State's probably their toughest game, but it's at home of the shoe. Give it the home team there. I have the same note as Nolan. Does Julian Sand live up to the hype? I think he does. He has plenty of weapons to facilitate the ball to. Um, so yeah, I think they get over the Michigan hump as well. I don't think this team loses a game.
Beats the brakes off Texas. Bookmark this shit.
Not a
I
big
have
Texas guy.
I have them losing to Texas, and that is my only loss. And I do have them in a coin flip game against Penn State. So I have them at 10.5, 11. So I am going to lean the over on this because I think they could beat Texas week one. Texas is kind of the same deal. They're an eerily similar situation. Does Arch Manning live up to the hype? Your defense got gutted because they all got drafted. Ohio State, your defense got gutted because they all got drafted. The thing with Ohio State, though, as to why I think they can run the Big Ten again, is they have the best wide receiver in the country. They have the best wide receiver room in the country. They arguably have the best quarterback room in the country. You go out, you get a top tight end in Max Clare from Purdue. You have James Peoples, who's also a stud. You bring in Bo Atkinson, who was one of the best pass rushers in the portal from North Carolina. And Caleb Downs is the best defensive player in the country. I've been saying it for a couple years now. An absolute difference maker. You pair that up with Davison Igbinosun, the cornerback who was really damn good at Ohio State, too. You bring in a top recruiting class again. I think some of those freshmen find their ways into games. Dude, you lose a lot and you gain even more. I mean, so it's not crazy to say they do it again. It's not crazy to say they do this whole damn thing again. So I am concerned, like you guys said a little bit, same thing. Does Julian Sayin do it? Does he do it? So I don't know. I think it all comes down to him. I think what's after him and Kindholz and St. Clair, obviously they don't want to turn the page to those guys because that means something didn't go to plan. But it's absolutely not. It's not break glass in case of emergency because it doesn't work out. I mean, it's the next man up and go make it work. And I'm here to tell you that any of us three could go throw passes to this receiving core. In all seriousness, any of us could go out there and probably go at least 5 for 15. Throw into Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Ennis, and Max Clare. I'm serious. Like, I really do think that could happen. So this is a really damn good football team. And I think 10.5 is easy. I think over plus 120 because outside of Texas and Penn State, they're not going to lose those games. Unless Washington, like we said, is all systems go and gives them one. That was the other coinish flip game I had.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. This team's just a juggernaut, and I think they're going to show out this season that they're probably the best team in the country. We have had some discussions on this show about question marks with Ryan Day. I think he solved that last year.
Yeah.
I think he kind of took that chip off of his shoulder. I don't think as much pressure on him from the fan base in the country and outside eyes. So I think that ship has sailed. So yeah, I think Ohio State rolls again this season, man. I really do.
And I think the players played for Ryan Day at that point. I think they knew everything in the message boards and the headlines. Ryan Day, we're going to fire him. I think they showed out for their coach. I think that proved that they liked playing for this guy. Now, I will highlight one thing that is massive that changed for Ohio State. Chip Kelly is not there.
Mm-hmm.
That does change a lot because Chip Kelly was probably the most underrated part of that team last year. Chip Kelly is an absolute genius when it comes to calling plays for an offense. What does Ohio State do this year? Because it didn't work all that well when Ryan Day did call the plays. Who I drawing a blank. Was it Brian Hartline that they hired for their OC? Is he the guy?
Line.
Okay, so he's been long in waiting for that position, I believe. They just happened to find a guy named Chip Kelly to kind of halt that a little bit. So does Hartline call the plays? Is it Ryan Day? I think that matters. And I'm anxious to see how that does work.
I think it's going to be Heartline. I don't
It
think
should
Ryan
be.
Day is going to touch it. I think he wants to be more of the kind of
Nick
GM
Saban.
role, head coach, GM role, whatever you want to call it. Just leave it up to Brian Hartline. Although, like you said, Chip Kelly was underrated. He schemed a lot of WTFO
Yep.
plays open last
Yep.
year, and there was people running nobody within 20 yards of him.
There's
Is
guys
the same
loose
thing going to
everywhere.
happen? Yep.
I mean, he needs to go like the Nick Saban route, man. I am to put guys in place and manage this football team. You are here to call plays and lead the offense. And when you don't, I'm going to get in your ass a little bit. So I think Ohio State, we will be talking about them when we do our playoff show and we're picking our national champions. I think they probably come up from at least one or two of us. If not clean slate, we'll see how that all breaks down. And looking forward to that as well. Anything else on Ohio State? Anything else on the Big Ten?
No,
I think it's
sir.
going to be an exciting conference. I don't think it's quite of
Great
a
conference.
crazy toss up as maybe the ACC and Big 12 was. I think it's kind of top heavy and a few mid teams that could make some noise, but I think it's going to be fun to watch again this year like it always is.
So, gentlemen, I always got to do this. I don't even know if I need to ask it really. Who wins the Big Ten?
I'm going Ohio State. I know it's everybody's favorite pick for this year, but I'm going Ohio State.
Bryant?
I don't believe myself, but I think I'm tired of Ohio State winning, so I'm just going to go Penn State.
Okay, and I think those two are the two favorites, I believe, last I checked, and I think Oregon's kind of right there with them.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm going to go. Let's make it interesting. I'll take Oregon. I don't believe myself either, but I'm going to take Oregon. I think I'm going to take Oregon mainly because I think they have truly the best chance, the way it kind of shapes up, to hit over 10.5 and be in the best situation to maybe go win the Big Ten. And let's not forget, they were the Big Ten regular season champs last year. So Oregon, back to back. And I like that we all three picked something different here. So that is a wrap on our Big Ten season win totals. Next week, starting up with the SEC, we will revisit some of these Big Ten win totals when we do our best bets win totals episode. We will revisit some of these teams when we talk our top 25, our playoffs, our national champions, Heisman's, all when those come into play closer to the season. So, Bryant, Nolan, if you guys don't have anything, I'm going to get us out of here.
All good.
I'm
All
good.
good?
Looking forward to the SEC for sure.
Absolutely. That'll be interesting. Make sure you tune into those. Make sure you're kind of following our shorts. We're kind of doing shorts over each one of these teams now and dropping them, just little snippets from each team to kind of give some discussion what we had in about a minute, minute and a half. So make sure you're looking for those too. Also, everybody that listens to us, everybody out there, have a safe, good holiday. Don't lose any digits. Don't blow any fingers off trying to light a fireworks. Not worth it. Make sure you come back with 10 fingers next week, Bryant and Nolan, when we do our SEC episodes. So, fellas, thank you guys for this. That's Nolan. That's Bryant. I'm Collin. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week. You can follow us on X at DT_sports_. TikTok, Deep Threat Sports Network. Facebook, Deep Threat Sports Network. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Deep Threat Sports. Make sure you guys are following, liking, subscribe, and tell your friends. College football season's right around the corner. Gentlemen, until next time, peace.